Once upon a time, there was a man named Sebastián who worked all day as an administrator in an office in the town. Even though his job kept him busy, Sebastián felt very lonely because he had lost his family in a tragic car accident a long time ago. Every morning, his routine was the same. He woke up to the sound of the alarm, made himself a cup of coffee, and sat by the window of his small apartment, looking out at the street without really seeing it. He would often watch families walking together, children running off to school, neighbors greeting each other with a smile. And although he felt a hint of warmth seeing these everyday scenes, he was also overwhelmed by a deep nostalgia. At work, Sebastián was efficient and meticulous. His colleagues respected him, but no one really knew him. He never talked much about his personal life and avoided any kind of social commitment. When they organized any gathering among colleagues on Fridays, he would find an excuse to leave early. Not because he didn't like the company, but because he felt that he didn't fit in with the joy of the others. The pain of his loss had enveloped him in an invisible bubble that separated him from the rest of the world. At night, Sebastián returned home and sought refuge in reading. He had a small collection of books on his shelf, mostly classic novels and travel stories. Sometimes he would turn on the TV just to hear human voices, though he wouldn't pay much attention to the content. He ate dinner alone at the table, with the sound of the clock being his only companion. Nights were the hardest, when the silence of his home became deeper, and the memories of his family assaulted him relentlessly. On the rare occasions Sebastián went out for walks in the town, he did so aimlessly. Sometimes he stopped at the central square and sat on a bench to watch people go by. Other times, he went to the library and spent hours leafing through books without really deciding to take one. The world kept spinning around him, but he felt stuck in a time that had stopped. Until one autumn day, when the sky was gray and a breeze moved the leaves on the streets, Sebastián decided to walk down a different path on his way home. Little did he know, that simple decision would change his life forever. As he walked thoughtfully, he heard a soft cry coming from a dark alley. At first, he thought of continuing his way, but something in his heart told him to stop. In the alley, between trash bags and old boxes, he found a little puppy trembling from the cold and fear. The dirty, tangled puppy looked at him with big, pleading eyes. Sebastián crouched down and carefully extended his hand. The puppy, after hesitating for a moment, came closer and sniffed his hand. "What's your name? Are you lost?" Sebastián asked softly, though he knew the puppy couldn't answer. The small dog only wagged its tail timidly and came closer. Sebastián felt something warm grow in his heart. He couldn't leave the puppy alone in that cold, sad place, so, very carefully, he picked it up in his arms and took it home. During the walk, the puppy settled against his chest, seeking warmth and security. When they arrived home, Sebastián prepared a warm spot with an old blanket and gave the puppy some food, which the puppy devoured eagerly. "I'll call you Luca," Sebastián decided, and the puppy wagged its tail as if it understood and agreed. From that night on, Sebastián's life changed. Every morning, he would prepare breakfast for both of them and talk to Luca as he got ready for the day. Luca always waited for Sebastián at the end of the day with jumps and joyful barks, making him forget the sadness he had felt before. As time passed, they began to go on excursions outside the town, exploring trails in the mountains and walking through unknown forests. Once, during one of their walks, they found a small lake hidden among the trees. Luca jumped into the water without thinking twice, splashing and playing as Sebastián laughed. From then on, that place became their refuge, their special corner where they spent the afternoons resting and enjoying the fresh air. One day, Luca did something mischievous. While Sebastián was at work, Luca found a box with old family memories of Sebastián. Before continuing with this touching story, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. This way, you won't miss more emotional and educational stories. At first, Sebastián felt very sad seeing those memories, but when he saw Luca's guilty face, his heart softened. "It's okay, Luca," Sebastián said as he wiped away his tears. "It's time to remember the good and move forward together." The days passed, and the connection between Sebastián and Luca grew even stronger. They started exploring new trails on their daily walks and, on one of these outings, met other dog owners with whom they became friends. Luca became the center of attention of the group, always full of energy and mischief. One day, while walking in the park, Sebastián and Luca met a new neighbor named Clara, who had recently moved to the town. Clara also had a dog named Max, a playful and energetic golden retriever. One afternoon, while walking in the park, Luca and Max met and began playing, running and jumping between the trees. Sebastián and Clara exchanged smiles and introduced themselves. From that day on, they began meeting regularly in the park and planning walks together. Clara was a kind and attentive person, and Sebastián felt more and more comfortable by her side. As time passed, Sebastián and Clara began to share more moments together, like walks in the forest, picnics in the park, and afternoons at the hidden lake Sebastián and Luca had discovered. Max and Luca became the best of friends, and their mischief always made their owners laugh. Sebastián and Clara found mutual comfort in their conversations and laughter, sharing stories of their past lives and future dreams. The loneliness that had marked Sebastián's life slowly faded, replaced by the warm company of Clara and Max. However, one day Clara received a job offer in another city that she couldn't refuse. With tears in her eyes, Clara said goodbye to Sebastián and Luca, promising to stay in touch. Sebastián understood and wished her the best on her new adventure. With Clara's departure, Sebastián focused once again on his routines with Luca, cherishing even more the time and adventures they shared together. Although he missed Clara's company, he knew she would always be a special friend in his heart. One of Sebastián and Luca's most memorable adventures was one day in the forest. They decided to go on a long hike, but without realizing it, they strayed off the trail and ventured deeper than planned. Night fell, and Sebastián began to worry. He had no signal on his phone, and the darkness grew denser. Luca, however, seemed to be in his element, sniffing the air and wagging his tail enthusiastically. Finally, guided by his faithful friend's instinct, Sebastián found the way back. That night, he understood even more the special bond that tied him to Luca. One particularly cold winter, Sebastián fell gravely ill. Luca never left his side, curling up next to him to provide warmth. It was a difficult few weeks, but with patience and care, Sebastián recovered. This made him value Luca's presence in his life even more. To celebrate his recovery, Sebastián decided to take Luca to a nearby beach for the first time. Luca was fascinated by the sand and water, running and jumping non-stop. That day remained etched in Sebastián's memory as one of the happiest he had experienced in a long time. Years passed, and age began to take its toll on both of them. Sebastián walked slower, and Luca no longer ran with the same energy as before. But still, they remained inseparable. Sebastián also started writing a journal where he recounted every adventure with Luca, describing the happiest moments, the challenges they overcame, and what his furry friend meant to him. Over time, this journal became a true treasure of memories. Time passed, and Sebastián, now 69 years old, continued enjoying quiet days with Luca. If this story has touched you, I encourage you to subscribe. This way, you can enjoy more stories like this, filled with love and loyalty. But one morning, Sebastián didn't wake up. Luca, worried, tried to wake him up with licks and barks. Seeing that he didn't respond, he ran to the window and began barking loudly. A neighbor, Mrs. Gomez, heard the desperate barks and approached the house. Seeing that Sebastián was not moving, she called emergency services. Thanks to Luca's quick action and the neighbor's help, the paramedics arrived in time. At the hospital, the doctors said that Sebastián had had a sudden health problem, but thanks to timely help, they were able to save his life. Sebastián and Luca continued sharing special moments. But over time, Sebastián's health deteriorated, and he eventually passed away. Luca, filled with sadness, visited his grave every day. One day, his heart could bear no more and he found peace beside his friend. In honor of their bond, Sebastián's family created a park for owners and their dogs, ensuring that the love between a man and his faithful friend would live on forever. This story reminds us of the importance of unconditional love and loyalty, values that can transcend even death. Every year, on the anniversary of the park, the neighbors would organize a special gathering in memory of Sebastián and Luca. Over time, the event became a tradition where attendees would share stories about their own pets and reinforce the importance of unconditional love and friendship. If you enjoyed this story, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. Your support helps us continue to grow and share more heartwarming stories. Thank you for being a part of this community.